Hello, everybody.
There it is.
I'm
We're
Amelia.
back.
We're back. Who are you?
Tom here.
Okay. All right. Well, some people may not have met us before, so just say our names. And we're in Dayton, Ohio,
Yeah.
and we are winding down on year A in the Revised Common Lectionary. And so we're in the Gospel of Matthew, coming towards the end of his teachings. And today's story is a parable of, commonly known as the parable of the talents. Tom will tell the story and then we'll talk about it. Because I
Right.
have a lot of questions about this parable.
Yeah. Well, it's a confrontational parable. Yeah. Makes you think. It is as if a man went on a journey and summoned his slaves and distributed his property among them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to their abilities. And he set out on his journey. The one who'd received the 5 talents immediately went and traded with them and made 5 talents more. And the one who'd received the 2 talents also went and worked with them and made 2 talents more. But the one who'd received the 1 talent went and dug a hole in the ground and buried his master's money. After a long time, the master returned and summoned his slaves to settle accounts. The one who had received the 5 talents came forward, and he said, "Master, you gave me 5 talents, and here are 5 talents more that I have made." And the master said, "Ha! Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will set you over many things. Enter into the joy of your master." Then the one who'd received the 2 talents came forward. And he said, "Master, you gave me 2 talents, and here are 2 talents more that I have made." And the master said, "Ha, ha, ha! Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in a few things. I will set you over many things. Enter into the joy of your master." Then the one who'd received the 1 talent came. And he said, "Master, I knew you to be a harsh man, who reaps where you did not sow and who gathers where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid. And so I went and I dug a hole and buried your money. Here is what is yours." And the master said, "You wicked and lazy servant. You knew me to be a harsh man, who reaps where I didn't sow and who gathers where I did not scatter seed. Then you should have taken my money and invested it with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would receive it back with interest. So take the money from this 1 talent servant and give it to the one who has 10. For to those who have will more be given, and they will have in abundance. But from those who have not, even what they have will be taken away. And as for this worthless servant, take him and throw him into the outer darkness, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth." That's the story.
All right, there you have it. More weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
Matthew seems the major in outer darkness, weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So first off, talents. Gather that was some sort of money. in
Yeah, it was a
ancient days? What was that worth?
well, it would vary according to whether it was a gold talent or a silver talent. The talent was a measure of weight. So but it was worth a lot. So assuming a denarius a day, the talent equaled the 6 days a week equaled around $300, then 300 denarii a year. For 15 years, the total would be 4,500 to 5,000 denarii. A contemporary equivalent for a working man might be 30,000 times 15, which would be $450,000 to $500,000. Whatever the context, it was more than 15 years of salary. My sense is that it would vary in terms of its value, depending on whether it was gold or silver. And these things were worth a lot of money.
Okay, so there's a lot of money involved here. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then there's a whole lot about economics in here and how the system worked. The first two men, it sounds like, well, they didn't invest the money exactly. They traded it. And
they traded with it. They worked with it.
They worked with it, right, and got more.
Worked with.
Right. Yeah. So then the third one digs a hole and buries it. I do remember there was someplace there was a parable about the kingdom of heaven being like a man who goes out and finds treasure hidden in a field. So maybe that was something that was done back then.
It was. That was the safest thing to do with money, was to bury it in the ground. So that was there were treasure troves all over the ancient Near East, because that was the safest thing to do with money, was to bury it. It was also the safest way to avoid being charged with a crime if you were entrusted with a significant amount of money. You could not be tried if you buried it in the ground, because that was the safest thing to do.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that. The going more towards the beginning, the master goes away, and then I guess he's gone a long time, and then he comes back after a long time. Is that a reference to, are we again talking about the parousia, that Jesus didn't come back as soon as people expected him to, or not?
Many scholars think so. That's clearly a delay, after a long time. That would make sense as a reference to Jesus being away for a long time. I am skeptical of that interpretation. I think that it's more likely that what Jesus meant when he told this parable was simply a reference to there being a long time waiting for the kingdom of God, and that the spirit of this is a spirit of waiting, of staying awake, paying attention for when the kingdom of God will come.
But it's more than just that. It has something to do with what you do with what you've been given by God, I gather. Right?
Well, yes. Yeah. And how you maintain your relationship with God. Clearly, the one talent servant, who is the focus of this parable,
right,
had no confidence in his master, and so he buried it out of fear. And it was not inappropriate, but in the parable, that's what gets him in trouble.
Yeah, because he calls the master harsh, and then the master kind of proves his point, I think.
Right.
So, yeah. And what
Right.
are we supposed to make of that? I mean, I really don't quite know what Jesus is saying. I mean, Jesus is not talking about an economic system, first off. This is a parable, a teaching about the kingdom of heaven, right? That's how
Right.
it's introduced. So what is he saying about the kingdom of heaven?
Well, I think he's saying that people are like the one-talent servant. They're tempted to believe that God is harsh, that God takes from what does not belong to him, that God is someone who you have to treat very, very carefully because you're likely to get punished. And so that was the basis of his doing the safe thing and bearing the money, was that he was afraid of God. I think that's the implication of the parable.
So is part of it that it's an invitation to take risks?
Yes.
Because of your faith in God?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Risks of doing good, risks of visiting people in prison, risks of giving money to the poor, risks of the redistribution of income in the kingdom of God. Yes.
Yeah, I guess because our tendency is to want to protect ourselves and be secure, and so we cling to what we have, or maybe we make more, maybe we invest, but we invest for the sake usually of our own welfare or our children's, not so much to be given away for the work of the kingdom. Would that be?
Yeah, and to hold on to whatever we've got rather than giving it freely and using it for the kingdom of God.
So I guess we've kind of moved into how this parable might have implications for ministries of peace and justice. You want to name that more directly?
Well, the most surprising thing in this parable is Jesus saying, to those who have will more be given, but from those who have not, even what they have will be taken away.
Yeah.
This is an exact reversal of the expectation of the kingdom of God, which was that the money would be taken from the rich and given to the poor, and that there would be economic justice. And so part of the puzzle of this is, what is this a reference to? That it will be taken from those who have. And one possibility is that he's not referring to money, but is referring to spiritual gifts, and that those who invest in the spirit of the kingdom of God and take risks for the sake of the kingdom will be rewarded. And those who hold on and are afraid and don't do anything to help the poor will be judged, thrown into the outer darkness, where there's weeping and isolated, separated from God.
Yeah, well, this kind of comes to mind as it's pretty trivial, but the saying about, use it or lose it, which I think is usually in reference to our, physical capabilities. If you don't,
right.
If you don't exercise and even aware, getting older is obviously losing some capability, but they still really encourage people in their senior years to exercise. What little strength you have, keep it going. Otherwise, you really will lose it all. So I don't know if that's an analogy or not. But.
Well, I think it's an analogy. Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else?
What this parable is about is shock therapy for those who are afraid to take any risks for the kingdom of God.
Okay.
And who conclude that God is harsh, and therefore that you have to protect yourself against God, rather than trusting and being confident, and then letting it all go.
Yeah. that's encouraging and helpful to those of us most of us who are rather fearful. So
yeah, it's
okay.
a purgation of fear parable.
Yeah.
To ponder.
Right.
What is he talking about? What does he mean? Well, I think it's another one of his ventures in shock therapy, in shock teaching, and that requires his listeners to think.
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, thanks, Tom. That's helpful. And
Well,
I hope it was helpful
hope
for
so.
all of you watching as well. Have a great week.
Yeah.
Don't be fearful,
Right.
and give away your gifts freely.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
With good cheer this week. Have a good week.